Hello and welcome. A few months ago, during the course of the summer, I was racing through one of London's luxury department stores with a very limited amount of time to see a number of brands. And as I was walking to my first brand, I was walking past the Prada concession and a tasseled bag caught my attention. And I stopped for a second and debated what to do. And I thought, let me go back briefly and just take a look at the bag. If I like it, I will schedule a bit more time to come back later in the week and take a better look at the bag. And as I was walking towards the bag, one of the assistants noted my attention and walked over to assist. And she removed the security tags from the bag, and I proceeded to look at the outside. I looked at the inside, and whilst looking inside, I thought, oh, let me try and find the price tag very discreetly. Couldn't see anything. And then asked the assistant, how much does the bag cost? And in my mind's eye, when I asked this question, I had imagined a price of between £3,500 to about £4,500 tops. And so when the assistant responded and said £7,200, I literally gasped. And it's incredibly rare. I don't actually ever remember a time in my life where I have been shocked by the price of a bag. I never react. I always maintain a poker face, regardless of whether I think the price is expensive, it's a good price, it's too cheap. And in my gasping, I then immediately responded and said, why is it so expensive? And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you will know I always say, luxury is not about the cost. It's about the value, what you are getting from the brand. That is what that premium is about. And so when I asked this question, it's because subconsciously, I didn't think it was actually worth £7,200. And the assistant was incredibly gracious, and he looked at me and smiled, and it was a smile that said, well, this is Prada and we can do it. Our products are that good. And he turned around and said, all of the studs are hand applied. And I thought to myself, but they don't particularly look very nice. It's a very shaggy style. But even the way they've applied the tassels, I think it could have looked neater. It could have actually looked nicer. And I thanked the assistant and handed the bag back quite quickly. And I thought to myself, let me do a bit of background research on this bag. Take a look at the website, see if there's a write-up, if there's any information that helps me to better understand and possibly accept why it's £7,200. And later that evening, once I was back at home, I had a look at the website, and to say I was disappointed is an absolute understatement. I was absolutely stunned, because the only write-up they had in the entire description box was 100% calfskin. Absolutely nothing else about the bag, any explanation about the studs, the details, the leather, anything to help me understand why it's such a high price. And I thought to myself, this is really disappointing. And I dismissed it. But during the course of the summer, the bag kept gnawing at me. And a couple of weeks later, I went back to take visuals and looked for the bag on the website and couldn't see it anymore. Apologies, I didn't take a screenshot, otherwise I'd have been able to show you. But I honestly didn't think it would affect me so deeply. But I did find the bag being retailed on a third-party site. So I've got the information. Again, all they have is 100% calfskin. They literally picked up that information from the Prada website. What really gnawed at me is that I felt it came across as really arrogant. Yes, Prada is a brand with fairly solid, very good brand equity. A lot of consumers they respect, they want to identify with Prada. They have a high perception of the quality of their products. They're loyal to the brand. And so the brand equity is fairly high. I get it. I personally have never rated their bags, and I've spoken about their bags on a number of occasions. I'm going to attach some of the videos above. And I have one bag left in my collection, and I have it purely because the bag was a gift, the sentimental value, but I rarely use the bag. And I remember the third time I used the bag, the glue on the handle started to unravel, and I was just so disappointed. And I liked the bag, particularly the color and the range, the bigger range it had been a part of, but I wasn't able to find the actual style I had wanted. It was already sold out by the time I went back to the brand. And so Prada is a brand I don't rate when it comes to their bags from my own experience, and there's feedback on social media, very well detailed feedback. And I felt for a brand at Prada's level, they could have given a lot more information. They came across as fairly arrogant, the way they just had 100% calfskin, that's it, take it or leave it. If you want to be part of the brand, that's all you're getting. And we're going to whack a massive premium on the bag. They could have spoken about the leather. Over the years, I know Prada Group has invested in a number of tanneries. I know in Italy they've bought Conceria Superior, and specifically the one of interest to me is Tannery Limoges. I'm particularly fanatical about the French tanneries because the French excel when it comes to their leathers. They are tanned absolutely exceptionally. They use age-old techniques that have stood the test of time and that tan absolutely outstanding leathers, absolutely exquisitely, and they stand the test of time. And so when I heard they had bought a minority stake in Tannery Limoges, I wasn't surprised. Prada Group has a number of leather goods brands in there, or rather brands that craft leather goods. Think of Miu Miu, the darling of the leather goods industry at the moment, Prada, Church's shoes, for example. And so buying Tannery Limoges, I got it. They want to ensure a consistent, high quality supply of leathers. And they also stated they wanted to be able to preserve the age-old techniques that the French are known and highly respected for. And so I thought to myself, Tannery Limoges is known for their nappa, their lamb nappa leather. And in particular, the planche nappa leather, which originates from the center of France. It's a leather closely associated with that region. They could have created a variation of the planche leather for the 7,200 pound bag, something different, something that was made uniquely for that style. They could also have, for example, the studs. They have possibly chosen studs or beads, for example, made from a material that's unique, that's robust, that's beautiful from a particular region in the world. Shine the light on that region. Or the beads were attached by a group of possibly women or a group that just needed the spotlight being shone on them. They're doing something worthy, something that is absolutely beautiful. And they just help to raise the profile with the association with Prada. The craftsmanship, they could have saddle stitched the entire bag, a much higher level of craft, made the bag a lot more durable. They could have edge coated the tassels. The tassels looked really sloppy and I didn't like how they looked. They were just raw, but it didn't look good. And the attachment, it was just really shaggy, but it could have been a shaggy that could have been a lot neater. And then I looked at the underside of the bag. They could have placed the legs. 7,200 pounds, I really would have wanted legs just to elegantly raise the profile of the bag from an aesthetics point of view and also protect the underside of the bag. They did very little for this particular bag and then turned around and said the premium is because they're hand applied, but the studs are not that spectacular. The overall look is not that spectacular when you really look at it closely. And I just thought, this is really disappointing. And it kept gnawing at me because I thought consumers will buy because they want to be a part of Prada, what it means, the identity, the association, and so forth. At the moment, luxury, as most of us know, is going through a really tough time. And you have some of the biggest markets in the world, the United States, China, and they're not buying luxury products. China has its own dynamics at play. A lot of the wealth is tied to the property industry, and property has been on a decline in China. There's massive youth unemployment, and then throw into that the US tariffs. In the US, like everywhere else, they're struggling with just economic woes. Consumers have significantly less spending power, and so consumers are switching, they're flipping to more affordable mid-range brands. But there are consumers still buying luxury. Miu Miu, a case in point, part of the Prada Group, is doing spectacularly well. It's an anomaly in the industry. And brands like Prada can still do well, are doing well, not as well, But what they're offering us is just peanuts. It's crumbs. We're being thrown crumbs. And because we want to be a part of the whole appeal, the allure that goes with Prada, consumers are buying this. But I actually think we are going through a time where there needs to be a reset in the luxury space. There's a term that came up a few months ago, greedflation, where brands, as we all know, have been putting up prices, particularly over the last 5 years. But there hasn't been an increase in the quality of the leathers they are using, in the design and enhancement or improvement in the craftsmanship, the details, a higher level of finish. We're not getting any of that, but just prices going up and hence contributing to the luxury industry just collapsing and consumers not buying. And I always say to my viewers, become more discerning, become more demanding with your money, expect more, challenge the brands. And very few people will ever challenge Prada. But there are other brands, and last week I spoke about a wonderful French brand called Prouesse by David Hanna. I'm going to attach the video above. And Prouesse is a brand that sits confidently within premium core, same level as Prada, and other brands like Givenchy, Fendi, for example. But it's coming in with absolutely outstanding products. They're using the very best quality leathers for each and every single bag they craft. The level of detail, the level of finish is done to an incredibly high standard. They're bringing variety into the space. I'm looking for more brands like Prouesse by David Hanna and mid-tier brands because I know my main consumers, the United States, for example, consumers have less disposable income, so they're looking for affordable brands. But there are consumers who can afford the likes of Prada. And brands like Prouesse are offering you a significantly higher quality product all around. And I will never be able to say this enough. My wish is for all of my viewers on my channel to become more discerning, more demanding, to question and expect more from your money. What I saw from Prada was just grossly inappropriate. It was unnecessary. And that was just a brand flexing and saying, we have really good brand equity, consumers like us, so we can do whatever we want and consumers will buy. We need to stop entertaining that kind of nonsense from brands. Any thoughts, any questions? Did anybody actually see or buy the Prada bag I've mentioned in this video? Let me know in the comment section down below.